Hello friends, this is your Nagendra. In this topic, we will discuss about like how the DB2 programming will having the techniques, how what are the techniques we need to follow while writing the DB2 statement within a COBOL program. Like these are the steps we need to follow while writing the DB2 program. We need to communicate with the DB2 program and describe set the processing and handling cursors, and we have to describe the SQL CA and how to interpret the message from DB2 and list the steps involved in preparing the program for a execution and explain the differences between the static and dynamic SQL. Friends, these are like a topics I am going to cover in this lessons. First, we will go like a program with SQL. We These are the structure for the programming with SQL: reading from terminal and getting DLI. This is for DLI and DB database. And for DB2 database, we have like these are like options: select and update. For other terminal, writing here. These are like additional source of data. This is sample of program SQL. Sample program with SQL. While writing the SQL statement, we need to follow like these are the steps here. We need to delimit the SQL statement and declare the SQL CA. We have to declare the communication area. We call the SQL CA, include SQL CA, and describe the we have to describe the host variable. Any variable if you are using in the DB2 statement, we have to mention the host variable, and code SQL statement to access the DB2 data, and how to we need to handle exceptional condition after evaluating each SQL statement. We need to write the handle exceptional condition by using SQL written codes of the SQL. These are the only 5 steps we need to follow for writing the SQL statement in the program. Let's go to like a first one. What is the first one? We have like a delimit the all SQL statement. These are like a delimiter. How to identify whether my program is having the DB2 statement, and like we can able to find the exec SQL statement in the program. So then only we can able to see that these are like a DB2 statements have been involved in this corresponding COBOL program. These are like delimiters we have to use like while writing the any SQL statement, like select and update, insert, delete statement. Any SQL statement within a program we have to use. We must use these delimiters. Like SQL, inside the SQL and end exec, we have to use the SQL statement. These are like we called as the delimiter here. Next step, this is the first step, delimiter, and next one is like declare the SQL communication area. How to these are like SQL communication area, like a SQL CA. We have to include the SQL CA in the working story section. Why we use a SQL CA? Like these are like a sample syntax, like a exec SQL include SQL CA and exec. We have to use like this is a in working storage section. Why will you use like SQL CA means whenever you are going to execute any like these are like SQL queries, after executing of the each SQL statement, like we need to handle the error return codes. Those are like exceptional condition. To get like what are the exceptional condition in our program, we have to include this SQL CA. This SQL CA having like a status code field tell of the result of the last executed SQL request. These are like after writing each SQL statement, it will tell like what is the SQL code for the each SQL statement. These are like example, like 00 means successfully the SQL statement written successfully, and the return is plus 100 means row is not found, and plus minus 530 nothing but no new foreign key value is invalid here. Next one, these are like a third step. If you are using any host variable, we must to use like a host variable with a use like a code, single quote, like then double quote PNO number. These are like a host variable number. See, these are like I am updating a table. I'm trying to set phone number with a host variable, nothing but you are passing from the program any other files to the to update into this table. Then we have to use like a host variable here. To pass the data from to the host variable, we can use like any of the working storage variable to host variable, and even we can use like a host variable, nothing but a working storage variable. and where employee number, this is also employee number we are sending from the input from terminal or files. These are like a see sample I am sending 72 ID number and a PN number is this one. This is like how if you are using any host variable we must use like host variable. And selecting a row like these are like selecting a single row. How to select a single row by using inside the dbt statement select execute SQL, and inside the ND6 we have to use the SQL statement. Here we are given like employed where employee number is equal to ID. If you are giving mention the unique any primary key number within a query, then it will like fetch the single row only, because the unique key having only one row for the each table. This is like a fetching the single row. But how to fetch the multiple rows in the table? We have to we have the concept called like a cursors. What we need to follow, these are the 4 steps while doing the cursors. We have to like declare the cursor and open the cursor and fetch the cursor, then we have to close the cursor. And these are like a sample syntax for the declaration. Declare the cursor name here, the x is nothing but cursor, and declare cursor name cursor for. Friend, these are like a mandatory steps here, but this is a cursor name. These are like we can able like use a defined cursor name, and these cursor and for is like a mandatory words. And select employee number last name from table where our department equal to I given the department number. Here this is like host variable, so we are passing from host variable, and these are like 4 steps you need to follow. Then after declaring cursor we have to open the cursor and fetch the cursor name into ID name. These are like host variable, whatever they open selecting select statement I have using the same statement for those variables. I am using like a host variable here like employee number. Here I am retrieving into the ID. Similar like a last name I am retrieving into the name here. So we have to match with the same whatever the variable we have to use the column name. These column names should be matched here. If you are not matching any one of the columns, you will get again a written code here. And these are like after fetching the cursor, we have to close the cursor. And friend, I am pasting this screen. Go to this content, and these are like some important topics, because I am not able to cover this text here. Pause the video and go to the read the content whatever they have mentioned here, because if you are if I am going to read a whole statement, it will get like a lot of time for the in the video. That's why I am explaining only the images, main part for the images which are not able to understand. Even I am going to cover the text also. I am showing the cover. Pause the video, you can be able to go to the read the video here. Next, this is like a fetching cursor. Fetch cursor name into ID and name here. Previously we have fetched here like fetch cursor name into ID and name. These are like after fetching how the cursor will working here. Employee number last name. If you are open the cursor, what will happen? If you are fetching cursor means what will happen? After opening cursor, the cursor like what is after opening cursor, it is going to fetch the cursor. So these are like logically it will follow. These are like a background in the dbt will work like this only. See, after fetching the cursor, it will establish the position from the first record like 30. Then it will fetch read the records in sequential. In the first fetch, it will read 30 and name, and the second fetch it will like fetching the next record here. These are how the fetch is working in the cursors. Now these are like a next step. Like after fetching cursor, you are handle. After executing the query, you need to handle the exceptional condition by using the written code SQL CA. We have the SQL CA having two sub section, like one is called SQL code and another one is SQL state. SQL code having in integer and SQL state is characters, and we'll discuss like what is an SQL code and SQL state is having. And these are like SQL code. If SQL code is 0 means it returns successfully. If it is greater than 0 means what will happen? These are like successful with warning messages. Previously we have seen one of the written code sample Return code nothing but like a plus 530. These are like a minus 530 and plus 100 you have seen. Plus 100 nothing but warning greater than 0 here, and minus 30. What is the minus 30? If you are going to here like a what is the greater than 0 is called like a warnings here, and less than 0 is called like a not successful here. These are like errors here. You can able to see these are like a SQL less than 0 nothing but error here. Plus 100 what indicate no data wrote found here. And SQL state, what is the SQL state? It depends on application. It is also written code, but it depends on an application. These are like written the error codes. Like next one, similar like here I am fetching here what will happen for each execution. My written this is like a sample. I am fetching the cursor. After fetching the cursor, you can able to see my table is having only 2 rows here. But I am fetch you can able to see first fetch my SQL code is equal to 0 because row is fetched successfully, and second fetch because my SQL code is written code is 0 because row is present here sequentially. But third row I am fetching the third time, my SQL code is 100 because there is no more record here. That's why it is getting a 100 plus 100 record written code. So even though you are getting the same previous record, after fetching third fetch also you will get like a last one, whichever having the last fetch that will store in the host variable. But SQL code is in 100 because of no more record in the table. These are like how the fetch is working. These are like not required, but go through the it is not in DB2 like this is like another DB2 database environment how it is working. And these are like important friends, like in interview also sometimes they ask these diagram to draw it. We need to prepare the program steps, so how the DB2 what will happen, how the source is coming, and after source is coming this is like a DB2 pre-compiler. What will do the DB2 pre-compiler? DB2 pre-compiler will create the timestamp for the SQL and non-SQL statement. You can able to see that star here. And then SQL DB2 for SQL side it will create the DBRM, and then after the DBRM is created it will create like a DB2 bind here. What will happen in the DB2 bind? It will check take in the catalog, it will check authorization error, and we'll discuss about the each and every one what DB2 bind will do. And after the bind will do, then it will create like a package or plan. Similar like for non-SQL side what will happen? For non-SQL side it will do compile, link edit, then load module will create. Even you can able to see the after while load module is created, even it will check like a timestamp, like you can able to see the star mark here. Whenever the package has been created, it will while executing this timestamp we will check like whatever the timestamp you have created in DB2 pre-compiler and load module while doing execution, it will check like what is the timestamp for the package also. Please pause the video and go to these steps, like what are the content they have mentioned here. These are like how it will going to execute, like program execution. Till here we have covered how it will like to load model and package will check like validate the timestamp here. You can able to see this diagram. In the load module it's like whatever the timestamp it will created, then it will check like a DB2 tables, it will check get the package here. And these are like friends from this topic. Some of the most of the interviews may ask what will happen in DB2 pre-compiler. Please pause the video. You can able to take screenshot. But please tell these are like answers in the interview. They are expecting only these are the answers from you, friends. Please do not tell like any other some other answer blah blah answer. Please pause the video, take screenshot, and tell to the interview these are like answers. What will happen in the DB2 pre-compiler? DB2 pre-compiler will separate SQL from non-SQL statement, separate for SQL and from non-SQL, and it check like for errors, where the errors will check in for the in db2 statement for db2 means it will check like only for errors. Pre-compiler will check only errors here and places the consistency token on both the output. I will revise the diagram here. You can able to see the pre-compiler. It will create the timestamp. It will extract the SQL and non-SQL statement. Other than this diagram, you can able to see the one more thing like it will check like errors also. These are the 3 steps you need to tell in the interview. And DB in the pre-compiler, it will create like a DBRM also. You can see that like here in the diagram, in like SQL nothing but DBRM will create here. Even sometimes the interviewer will ask like where the DBRM will create means you can tell like in the pre-compiler the DBRM will create. And next like what is a bind here. After the pre-compiler then we have to check like what is a bind will do. Friend, these are like a most important topic. These are what bind will do. I have seen some of the 99% the interview will ask these are like a mandatory questions. What bind will do like check for errors and using the db2 family catalog. db2 family catalog nothing but db2 statement like for our db2 2. For others you can tell like a db2 400 db2 600, but ours I can like check here db2 bind will do take like catalog here. You can see the check for errors using db2 catalog. Develop the access strategy for each statement and store the strategy as a package reusable. What is a package? Package nothing but reusable without repeating bind. Friend, this is also another important. What is a package? Sometimes the interview asks what is a package, where the package will create means we can able to tell like a store the strategy as a packages and reusable without a repeating bind. Package nothing but reusable without repeating bind here. Next, after bind is done, then we have like a explain statement. Tell out like how SQL statement will be executed and which indexes you are using and what sort you are using in the what sorts are required in the explain. Explained will tell like all these statement. Tell like how the SQL statement will be executed. Friends, why I am repeating the same twice means because these are like important topic. What sorts are you required used to evaluate performance and to prototype. Sometimes the interview asks like where the explain will store, like able to tell like in a plan table these are like explain will store here. And like we have like 2 types of SQL. One is the static SQL, another is the dynamic SQL. Whatever coded we are coding in the program that is called like a static SQL, and which are all coding a dynamic SQL nothing but which are executing in the through queries like while SQL, JCL and all those are like a dynamic SQL we are passing. We'll see about those things. First we'll discuss about the static SQL. Objective here, what is static SQL mean? To select data. These are like how it will working the static SQL. These are we are going to do program here selecting call. After a call we'll doing the select statement will go like a db2 packages and it will check the db2 family and check like a create like a check authorization and table whether this select statement is valid or table is valid or not. So after getting successfully done, like it will throw the result here. Program handle the result here. You can able to see static SQL is a permanent part of the plan. When whenever the program is invoked using and executed, the calls will package. It called the packages and which issued the select statement db to return the requested data to the program. And these are like 2 types static SQL coded in the program and always do the same function on the same table and column. Bind on all SQL statement before program execution and build a stored package in permanently. What bind will do, we can able to add like these are like other along with the previous statement. What the bind will do here, you can have add these also the steps while answering to the question. Before program execution and build a stored package in permanently. This is a sample how the dynamic program is dynamic SQL is working. You can able to see the select statement I am going to code inside the program, but I am expecting the host variable data from JCL or some other through we are going to expect the data value from the host while doing executing in the runtime. That is called dynamic SQL. Then process is same here, package db2 and db2 db2 will go and access here. And these are like how the dynamic SQL required during the run or runtime only, and the function can vary and done different tables and columns. We can able to execute like with the different tables, because and bind will do only single statement only at statement execution, and access strategy not saved. These are like how the differences between the static SQL and dynamic SQL. To be static, objective and action must be known, and data values can be later and via host variable. For the dynamic SQL, if object or action not known, then it must be dynamic. Means for static SQL, you must know like all what is the column name, table name, all these values. For dynamic SQL, we should like run in the while executing the program. But before for static SQL, before executing any program, you must know the static SQL data. You can able to see the bind. How many times we will do the bind for the static SQL? Static SQL bind is only once, and dynamic SQL is bind for every time. These are like same like a type of SQL access, how the SQL going to access here. I explain the topic. And these are like a sample exercise. We will see like what are the questions they ask. What are the SQL delimiters in a program? Supply either name COBOL or delimiter. We have seen in the first screen. We have like a exec SQL and exec. These are like a COBOL. We have to use in the COBOL. C. These are the same similar like exec SQL, but instead of end exec, we have used a colon here. And next question. Name the two of the important function DB2 family pre-compiler preparation steps. We have seen already the pre-compiler will create like a to check for errors, and it is used to extract the SQL statement. Next question. How do you know the access path chosen by any of the SQL statement in your program? Bind will create like access path to executable statement. Next question. Within a program, how do you know the DB2 operation was successful or unsuccessful? Friends, we have already seen like we have used like include SQL CA. Then only you can able to check like a written code of the every statement. If you are not mentioned in include SQL CA, then you are checking the written code of the each SQL statement. It will not work, because you need to accessing the whatever the predefined variable in your program, that is called include SQL CA. We must use like include SQL statement in your working story section. See. Next question. If your program logic is performing multiple row processing, that is row having defined cursor select statement, they are using the fetch statement to retrieve the data. When does like actually they execute the SQL statement? Whenever the cursor means they are asking you are doing fetching the retrieving the data, but after how the fetch is working, whenever cursor or fetch the current position of the row only. Cursor means it will fetch always the current position of the row. And the last question. When and how often the access path strategy for the SQL statement in your program determined? For the static SQL, before program pre-compilation, and the access path is see, these are like permanent. For dynamic SQL, it creates every SQL statement. Access path is permanent here. For pre-compilation, before pre-compilation, and access path is permanent here. Here it is asking how often access path is created for the SQL statement in your program determined before pre-compilation, and access path is permanent here. For dynamic SQL, we are going to create every time every SQL statement, and access path is not permanent. We are going to running every time SQL statement. It will run at execution time. but bind will create in every SQL statement. We have to do bind every. These are like a disadvantage of the dynamic SQLs. Yeah. Yeah, that's all for that. I have covered till now here like use for cursor for processing multiple rows, embedded SQL. How we explain the tool we have seen, how to use like a static SQL call, and program working with a label and available in several environment. That's all fine for the this programming topic, and in the next topic we will see about how the program locking, how the locking will work for the in the program. Friends, if you are having any questions in the DB2, if you face any questions in interview, please do the comments. I will reply to your questions like how to handle the interview, what answer, what content you need to answer in interview to get like impressed in for answering the any DB2 questions. Thank you all.